Hello, this is the fifth episode of the Role Model series. Before we proceed, I would like to thank DEPwD, ISLRTC, and ISH for promoting this deaf role model series. So, who is the fifth role model? Wait, let me tell you. Growing up, this person was ashamed to be deaf. He never liked using sign language. He then went on to become an architect and later a teacher. Since then, he has been teaching. I will not tell you his story myself. I will let him introduce himself. His name is S. Hari Hara Kumar. Hello. Thank you, ISH, for inviting me on this interview. Great. Please tell us a bit about yourself. I have completed my MA. I have two deaf sisters and one hearing sister. We are four siblings in total. My parents are hearing. My oldest sister got married to a deaf person. My wife is deaf as well, and we have two daughters. Wonderful. Tell us about your work. Currently, I serve as the General Secretary on the board of Deaf Enabled Foundation and as the director at Talking Hands and Co. So, I have a question. You and two of your sisters are deaf. How did your parents feel about this? And how did you feel about yourself in this society of hearing people? My parents' first child was deaf, the second hearing, and when I was born deaf, they were stunned. They were okay with their first child being deaf but wondered why they got a second deaf child. My oldest sister was studying in a school at Chennai. When I was born, they couldn't afford to send me to school as well. We were living in Tirupati. So they thought and came to know about Hyderabad. We all moved there. Growing up, I never realized I was deaf. At 5, people began asking, "Can't you hear?" and urging me to speak. This made me feel awful. Some showed excessive sympathy, prayed for me, and even cried. I never realized I was deaf, but all this made me feel like something was wrong with me. I withdrew into myself, feeling deeply disturbed. At 5, I wondered why my sister went to school and insisted on going too. At the time, school required students to be 6, so my mother told me to wait. I began writing and scribbling on the ground. On the ground! I would scribble everywhere, and my mother struggled to clean it up. I desperately wanted to go to school. Realizing this, my teacher decided to give me a dummy admission in school. So I went to the school and I was very interested. After a year, I was kept in the same class. Everyone thought I had failed. I was sad to be held back. Time passed on. My school covers standard 1 to 10. When I was in standard 7, I had to study the books of standard 2 and 3. Yes, that's how it was. In class 8, we had class 4 or 5 books. And in standard 9, I had standard 6 books. My hearing friends would laugh at me, but this is what the teacher had given me. That was the system at that time. In standard 9, I had standard 6 books. But when I was in the 10th, the SSC board became compulsory from 1988. All of a sudden, I was given difficult syllabus of standard 10th and it was very hard for me. I was not used to reading so much content. Math was extremely difficult, just as it is for many hearing people. It was for me too. There was a math teacher named K. Sudarshan Reddy. This is his sign name, who really helped me. He totally focused on me and taught me math. That's how math became simple for me. I prospered in other subjects via 2 or 3 teachers and I passed the maths and other few subjects. I thank my teachers for giving me their focus. After completing my 10th, I went to ITI and I saw many deaf people from Chennai, Karnataka, and beyond. They came there and were all chatting using signs. In my childhood, I did not have active signs. I used to be very quiet and listen. I used to talk to my sister, who taught me, who gave me tuitions, who taught me to write and read. My sister was very determined in my education. She pinched me, smacked me to ensure that I study. I was scared of her, but I respected her. And then later on, I gained confidence and talked with deaf people. I did not know anything about the future. I just chatted and roamed around. My fear was all gone, the shyness was gone. I just roamed around knowing nothing about my future. My development, being a leader or a guide, nothing. I knew nothing. I just used to see the associations and followed whatever they were doing, like rallying, whatever. I thought it was my destiny. After completing ITI, I thought about my future. I applied for admission in standard 11th and 12th. I went to a lot of colleges, but they were not enrolling a deaf student. Then I gave it up. I continued in ITI. I didn't have any goal in life, and then I started training there for 1 year and finished. After that, what I was going to do in life, I did not know anything. There were a lot of barriers in my life. Wait, in your story, you mentioned that you were shy, being deaf, and not aware of the future. After a while, you changed and became a successful guy. How? Who was the person who guided you? There was one hearing person. His name is JSK Rao, and this is his sign name. He's a hearing person who signed very well. I thought hearing people like my parents, my sister, or cousins could not sign fluently at all. I had not encountered an interpreter in my past. Few of my teachers could sign basic words like how was your trip, what time, are you watching TV, and shared some jokes. JSK Rao signed like a deaf person. I was confused whether he's deaf. He said he was hearing, but I couldn't believe his fluency in ISL. I was impressed with him. He wished to teach English, and I gathered a few students for him and I learned from him. Using ISL, he taught us the connection to English grammar, and we realized it. He encouraged us to start writing ourselves, and we improved English literacy a lot. We felt good. We asked him about our problems in future. He said, "Don't worry so much," and emphasized on our skills in reading, writing, and signing. Through signing, we gained confidence. I have my personal problems and some depressions, and he guided me to overcome them. I felt better and became confident. After a while, he asked if I can start working voluntarily. I was 19 years old in 1992, and he encouraged me to start teaching. I taught some students. After a while, he told me to go to different places to help deaf people. That's how my journey started. Time flies, and I'm here now. I'm very grateful to him for his guidance through ISL. He taught me English writing, which built my confidence, which otherwise I would not have been very confident. Well, see, in this story, the important lesson is that the Indian Sign Language, which is natural language, combined with an additional language like English or any other language like Marathi, Hindi, etc., makes it a bilingual language that makes you prosper in life and work. My next question is, before you joined in Deaf Enabled Foundation, what are your previous experiences? In 1992, when JSK Rao was teaching me, he noticed that I was an experienced and talented person. He said, "Why don't you have a job?" I told him that I didn't have a good job and was looking for one. I was working in a private job of photo printing. You mean film processing? Yes, that's correct. It was a remote place since there were no job opportunities for deaf, so my father put me into that photo printing job. It was a very low job. JSK Rao did not like me doing that kind of job, and I had no other choice. My father was planning to send me to work at a factory. JSK suggested that try better opportunities. Imagine me doing the work my father planned to send me for after my ITI studies. But I had to accept it. But JSK Rao told me, "You are talented. Get a better job." I had not introspected. It was a good time as there was another person who saw JSK's signing skills and thought he was deaf. He was surprised to know that a hearing person was signing so well. He explained that sign language was important for the deaf. The man felt compassion because he had a deaf son and, oh, the man's son was deaf. He wanted Rao to teach English to the boy and Rao agreed. He asked Rao if he can take two deaf people to learn architecture and give them jobs. Rao replied, "There are no deaf people working in architecture firms, as most of them had only completed 10th grade. He said that he is ready to take deaf if they are skilled. Rao thought of me and one other deaf person and he got us to come there. When he told us to go to the firm, I asked him what were we supposed to do there. When he said it was an architectural firm, I told him we knew nothing about it. Right? The three of us, Rao and we two deaf, sat in the room. The boss asked Rao if he can ask him a question. Rao said okay. He asked, "You have done BSc and they have passed 10th." He then drew something on paper with a pencil and asked JSK Rao to explain what it was. He saw and thought that it was some art but couldn't explain what it was. The design was nice and it looked very beautiful. He said it was a house. That's it. He then asked me what it was. I just looked at it and said, "It was the very room we were sitting in." "You told him it was the same room?" "Yes. Yes, you understood very well," and then stood up and shook hands with me. Rao too was surprised. He told me, "You have got the job. Come and start working." I was surprised that I had got the job without knowing architecture. He told me that since I understood the design, it was sufficient for me to work. He said, "You'll have excellent skills in the future." I was really surprised. Rao congratulated me and asked me to start working from next day. That's how I started my job. On the first day, I saw the hearing staff were all who have done bachelor in architecture. They asked me what I had studied and I couldn't believe that I was a 10th pass person working there. After I joined, I started teaching them a little bit of signs and finger spelling. They were excited about it. Through a little bit of signs and gestures, they explained to me the work, which I started understanding. I learned it easily and within 6 months I was able to do it. My boss started telling and showing my work to others. Whenever a client came, my boss would show my work and tell it was designed by a deaf. Clients would be impressed by my work. They showed my designs to everybody and I was appreciated. That's how I worked there for 12 years. During your 12 years, did you focus more on interior design or exterior architecture? When I started, I created plans, sections, elevations, and perspectives. The fourth work, there was nobody to do that. Everyone else did the three other work. No one knew how to do that work except for one senior man who knew it. I saw that he was the only one who was doing it. No one else, as it was difficult. So everybody was doing the three other things. Okay. For this exterior work, only he was given the orders. I kept observing him. My boss realized that I liked this work. He would always tell me, go and learn this work. The senior man was hesitant, but let me observe his work. The designs needed to be not only aesthetically pleasing but also accurately measured. I observed the calculation and started practicing it at home. When my boss saw my exterior design skills, he was impressed and assigned me to work with the senior man. First, I was doing the three things like everybody else, but after I observed and learned the skill, I was assigned to do exterior design work with the senior man. You worked for a long time in the architectural firm and then you ventured into teaching the deaf. How did this change happen? With Deaf Reach, I was juggling both the jobs. In 1992, I was just helping. In 1997, I was registered and I became the General Secretary. While JSK Rao worked full-time in Deaf Reach, I juggled work between the architectural firm and Deaf Reach. This went on for a long time. In 2001, after JSK Rao passed away due to health issues, I wondered about my status in Deaf Reach, if it was going to be closed. The lady chairperson of this organization was managing everything. I would not like to take over this organization. I was thinking what to do. I knew Arun Rao, who was running the Deaf Way Foundation. Sandeep had worked with him for 2 years before returning to Hyderabad. While we were wondering what to do, Sandeep suggested we start Deaf Way Foundation as we had experience of running an organization. We left Deaf Reach and started the Deaf Way Foundation. I was still doing both the work, the job and the organization, and Sandeep was working full-time in Deaf Way Foundation. They taught English and I also helped. This went on for a long time. Then in 2003, I heard about the ISL course that was starting in AYJ NISHD Mumbai. Uday Bhaskar had returned after doing the course and had said that it was good 3-month course about sign language. I wondered if I should go for the course. I knew Dr. Ulrich and Sabaji Panda who were teaching there. When Arunda asked me why I hadn't gone for the course, I told him I had a job. He told me that earlier you went for the inauguration, why don't you now go and learn? It was conducted by AYJ and ISHD. I was a bit perplexed as I had just gone for the inauguration. Arunda then told me that it was a good course and I would learn a lot. I thought about it and decided to go. So I asked my boss to permit me to go learn ISL. He asked me why I needed as I had already signing well. He told me that I would have a good future in the architectural firm. Yes, I was working there, but my heart was not in that work. I wanted to do something in sign language and always had the feeling that it will succeed in the future. I knew it was useful and was confused what to do. I kept thinking and had sleepless nights. I thought about cancelling the plan, but my mind was not at peace and I was not able to decide. I gave it a thought and again requested my boss. He agreed only when I promised that I will return after 3 months. He was wondering what I was learning in sign language. I came to Mumbai and I was glad to meet Dr. Ulrich. I had met Sibaji earlier in 2001 as well. The course commenced and I was in awe with the explanation as it was our language. I was signing, but I was unaware of the grammatical aspect of words and sentence structure in ISL. I always thought ASL to be better than ISL as it had more words. ISL also has the words. I thought about it and decided to continue in ISL teaching. You finally decided. I didn't want to work at AYJ and I said, yes, it was a contractual job and they can remove me anytime. But I wanted to do something in ISL when you already had the DEPwD Foundation. I had already planned the future of DEPwD Foundation and hence I decided. I told my boss that I'm leaving the job as I want to work in ISL. I told him that I was going to be at home and asked for a permission letter to start teaching architecture to other deaf. As I did not have the B.Arch degree which was needed to teach others. Just being 10 pass, I wasn't allowed to teach. He asked me if I was sure. When I said yes, he gave me the letter, stating that I was an expert and permitted to teach. Since I did not have the certificate, the letter gave me the confidence. There was an extra room. We put up the board that it was the architecture classroom. I went back to AYJ and ISHD to complete the training. For 2 years, I taught hearing students who were doing BSc. These were hearing students. What about the deaf students? I was happy at AYJ and ISHD, but I wanted to teach deaf students as well. The course for hearing students who wanted to become interpreters, but most of them went abroad. They wanted to learn to communicate and not become interpreters. However, a few of them were very good interpreters. Others wanted to study further. I taught there for 2 years. I didn't mind teaching hearing students for 2 hours or so, but I wanted to teach deaf full time. When I asked, I was informed that the course for the deaf was at Mumbai only. I was already involved in DEPwD Foundation and decided to work full time and start ISL there. In 2005, I joined the DEPwD Foundation full time and also started the architectural training. It continued till 2009 and a lot of deaf students had enrolled by then and were also applying for jobs. That's when in 2009 we started the Deaf Enabled Foundation. I was again the General Secretary and also the Director. In DEPwD Foundation, I was the coordinator. I was also teaching English and was the director as well for all these years. 4 years back, I handed over the director position and remained as the GS of the board. Earlier, you said that you worked with hearing people in the architectural firm for 12 years. And at the same time, you also worked part-time in the Deaf Association. Did they pay you for it? The firm paid me the part-time salary. And in the DEPwD Foundation, it was voluntary work. I was there to support. How long did you work like that? From 1992, I had started teaching voluntarily and continued till 2005. For so long, wow. I wanted to provide support. I was being paid by the architectural firm where I worked. In 2005, when I joined full-time, they started paying. You were teaching from 1992 to 2005. Didn't you think about getting some payment? I never thought about money. I wanted to encourage and teach deaf people who didn't know English. Even JSK Rao never thought about money and I never paid him. He took just 50 rupees. Just 50 rupees. It was a way to support the deaf, encourage them, and help in their growth. I'm surprised. From 1992 to 2005, he had a job but still worked voluntarily in the DEPwD Foundation and never expected any payment for his teaching. He taught so that the deaf could progress. Surprising, wonderful. Thank you. Earlier, you worked in Deaf Reach and the DEPwD Foundation. You are now involved in the Deaf Enabled, which is an NGO. How and who managed to start it? How is this so independent? Did some hearing person help you start it or you did it yourself? We hadn't started Deaf Enable Foundation, but we learned and gained the experience of managing Deaf Reach and the DEPwD Foundation. I also had a team of strong and expert deaf people. Before starting, we gained various experiences, made contacts, saw the situation of the deaf, contacted a lot of companies, etc. The DEPwD Foundation was funded by the deaf themselves by getting donors. We were told to arrange the funds ourselves through donations, etc. So when you were working in DEPwD Foundation, you had to search for donors as well. Yes, through the money collected, we could pay the teachers. There were only 10 to 12 staff, but they had to be paid. So we had to get the funding for their salaries, rent, etc. We funded it and only used the name DEPwD Foundation, which was popular across the country as they had their name printed on books, etc. We already worked hard on getting the funds and were experienced at it. When we were confident of ourselves, we decided to become independent. We had an interpreter with us who was dedicated and was even liked by the deaf community. That's when we started Deaf Enabled Foundation and have since then working with it. With how many people did you start? There were around 20 people when we started and now we have around 80 people. There are different parts in the countries. You are part of the Deaf Enabled Foundation. There are a lot of deaf who have lots of problems. I want to know, how do you help them resolve their problems? What goes on within you at that time? Growing up, I had a lot of experiences. I made mistakes, had my worries, was depressed, was stressed. But I kind of resolved my issues with JSK Rao's advices by reading books, observing other leaders, etc. Learning from these, I learned to solve my issues. I saw and understood that my sister and others also had problems. Whenever a deaf person came to me with problems, I helped resolve them with my experience. Earlier, I had a lot of negativity, but now it's all positive. I once walked in darkness, now I walk through brightness. I used to be afraid, now I'm confident. The shyness is gone. By meeting and talking to other deaf, I gained a lot of experience and realized we all had the same issues. I would then explain them that I had experienced the same and that even the leaders face problems in life. I tell them that even former US President Abraham Lincoln faced multiple failures before finally becoming the president. The famous basketball player Michael Jordan had to face failure before succeeding and becoming famous. When I explain that everyone faces problem, it helps them resolve their problem. I want you to give an example of a very serious case where you have helped a deaf person resolve the problem or couldn't help. Can you share an incident you experienced? There was a deaf who had a lot of problems and was so stressed that he said, I'm finished. Finished means his life will come to an end. He wanted to end his life. Yes, he kept on saying it was over. I spoke to him and tried explaining. He said that his life was a failure. He was not happy. There was nobody to help him and that everything was over. I explained and told him to be positive. I repeatedly told him to just wait and not take a drastic step. Eventually, he subsided. He did have problems. I told him to be patient. I told him that he will surely succeed in future. He need not worry too much and that everything will be fine. He realized when he knew I was there for him. I tried helping him solve minor issues. He even had problems in his marriage and wanted a divorce. But I advised him against taking divorce and told him that everything will be fine and eventually everything was normal again. I did not let him give up. At the end, the person has to decide for himself. I can only advise and guide. To listen or not to listen is a person's choice, and if he accepts, the problem can be solved. If they don't listen, I leave it to them. When the problem doesn't solve, they may come back. My duty is to advise. Did you see? When you face problems, you gain experience. These experiences are your learnings. Don't think of problems as punishment. They are part of life. You grow and evolve into a leader through these experiences. That was one of the examples. Lovely. A lot of deaf learn about the meaning of leadership from presentations of other deaf leaders. These deaf become self proclaimed leaders and seek attention by seeking irrelevant questions, posting on social media, and arguing. Is that what it means to be a leader? What's your opinion? Leadership is not about having your name in the spotlight. Being a leader means to guide. That's it. A person learns from someone, gains confidence, peace, and becomes an experienced expert. A leader's role is to help individuals achieve these goals for themselves and then guide others to do the same. Leadership is about guidance. It's not about your name. Leaders of an organization or a political party are different. Within the deaf community, leadership is always about guiding others. I have learned this from my experience. In the deaf community, there are many who are expert sportsperson, good signers, good in working, dancing, acting, comedy, etc. I applaud these deaf experts. But I don't want these older experts who had achieved success in their fields to fade into oblivion while letting the younger generation succeed. I want these experts to stay, even after becoming old, to train and guide the younger students to succeed. Hari Hara Kumar, you are a leader, right? Could you share an example of someone you mentored who has become a successful person today? While working at the architectural firm, I was once asked to meet a deaf person who was very quiet. I had never met him before. He was son of a rich person and I was asked to teach him. I was surprised as the deaf did not know sign language. He knew nothing. Nevertheless, I agreed to teach. He neither could write nor sign. Whatever I signed, he just copied. If I asked him, are you educated? Instead of replying, he said back the same to me. Oh, it was like a mirror. Yes, like a mirror. He wouldn't know how to reply. It was tough and I almost gave up. It was difficult for me to teach him while working at the firm. My boss asked me to try for a while and allowed him to come to the office daily. I thought I would let him sit idle while I stayed busy in my work. But JSK Rao had always told me, you are a leader, doing service is your duty. I am educated and this deaf person is the opposite. But I remembered JSK Rao had guided me the same way and leader means to encourage others. I took up the challenge and started communicating with greetings. I explained him he should reply, not just copy the signs. Slowly and gradually he started improving. Once when I asked him if the food was good, he replied, no, it is not good. That's how I tried to communicate with him. It was very difficult. He kept on copying my signs. It was very difficult for his parents to communicate with him as he was very idle. I continued interacting with him. How old was he? He was around 25. I tried my best. I would joke with him and slowly and gradually, meeting him every day, he started replying that he is going out for food, etc. When his father saw him communicate, he had tears in his eyes. But for me, it was a minor thing. I wanted him to do more. His father said that even this much was enough and thanked me immensely and was in tears. That's how we communicated, and then he went abroad and he still thanks me. I asked why he was going abroad and urged him to say, let him stay here. But he said that the brief communication was enough. That's when I understood what leadership actually means. It's a service. A person may know little, but many leaders believe that they should meet only those who are at par with them. Irrespective of the level, leaders should guide and encourage. A true leader helps, empowers, and encourages others without seeking the spotlight, as some of the current leaders do. A good leader helps others to succeed. What a lovely example. Thank you. You, Hari, learned a lot. Who are your role models? Like I said earlier, one of them is JSK Rao. He helped me. What I learned from him was that he was always positive. He never got angry. He had good relations with everyone. In 12 years, he inspired me so much. He used to call me to his house at 6 a.m. I knew Telugu and he taught me English. His house was near my office. So I used to go to his house at 6 or 7 a.m. and he patiently taught English words to me. In a day, I would learn 10 words and then go to work. Again, the next morning, 6 or 7, I would be at his house asking him what was written in the newspapers. He never said that he was fed up of me going to his house every day. In fact, welcomed me, and even if he was sick, he taught me. I would tell him it is okay, but he continued teaching and truly worked hard. This inspired me. I learned the skill from him and never say no to anyone wanting help. I learned it from JSK Rao's life. Second is my mother. While growing up, I used to trouble her a lot, but she never said anything and kept loving me. Even though I troubled her, she never shouted at me. She was a very positive person. She allowed me to go wherever I wanted and never stopped me from doing anything. She was a godlike, calm person. She never got angry on me and, in fact, inspired me a lot. I knew that if I go the wrong way, my mother is there to help me and guide me. She was a very kind lady. My next role model is sign name TKM Sandeep. He's a deaf person. I see him as a strong, confident, and skilled individual. He understands finance well, is a good teacher, well educated, and has amazing management skills. He has knowledge about tax, tally, and much more. I have seen that he is good at it. I sometimes feel it's impossible to do something and it's going to be difficult in the future, so I try to keep things simple. But Sandeep wouldn't agree. Despite my doubts, he would say, "We'll try and fix it. We can do it." That's what I've learned from him. He is confident, I am confident. We share and have been working together since so many years. We never think of loss or of closing down. If at all there is a loss, we will fail. He would say he'll come up with something new. No matter how difficult the situation, he will find a way to resolve it. Everyone, including the companies, know how Sandeep is. I really respect and appreciate him for that. And a lot of people respect him as well. And he is deaf. That's what I and others learn from his life. I still work and share ideas with him. I give him a small idea and he builds on it. What is your dream for the future? My dream is to be an ISL pioneer and want to change the world. I want new things to happen and I really hope that the entire world would start signing. Everybody would be using their hands to communicate. Earlier, we saw there were a few people who signed and they just used a few gestures. Now it's partially both, and in future, I want everybody to sign. College professors, students, engineers, scientists, lawyers, everyone would sign. That's my dream. Deaf people's life would be easy and without any barrier, and that they can learn easily. My dream is to have a signing world. What message would you like to give to the deaf audience who are watching us? Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this interview. I want the deaf in India. We know there are around 18 million deaf people in India that we are talking about. It's a large number. I want them to use sign language. Sign language is very powerful once all the deaf start signing. School and college education will become easier. In the future, sign language will be the key to your job, your life, and everything. Don't think of leaving sign language for your job. Yes, job is important, but sign language has the power to empower you. In USA, they have ASL because of which the deaf have progressed well. Without ASL, they wouldn't have been so successful. They are successful because of ASL and have doctors, lawyers, etc. who use ASL. I have understood that sign language is important. Remember, sign language has the power to get you jobs and empower you. Along with sign language, education is equally important. Most of you would be 10th, 12th or BCom pass. Despite being educated, we don't understand much, and the same is with me. Try to educate yourself, learn reasoning, learn to write, read, understand the meanings, as education has the power to improve your future. Education is very important. I hope you all will stay positive. Thank you. What a wonderful interview. It was really inspiring. I hope the deaf look up to you and try to follow your example. Thank you for coming here for the interview. Hope to see you all again. Bye. Bye.